Amazing, here we are again.
Yeah, again in 3 years, we met in Korea. Great to see you, Ron.
Very good to see you, very good to be back here.
Yeah, so who doesn't know, we have here a guest, Neuner, who is the host of CNBC Trader Show, the first show on TV about crypto, and as well he's the owner of Crypto Banter channel. Great to have you here, Ron.
So good to be here.
Yeah, so last time we made an interview in London in March 2020. I think it was our last conference before the COVID pandemic lockdowns, and as well it was the day of terrible crypto market drop.
Yes, I remember all those amazing conferences before lockdown, and it's so nice to be traveling again. It's so nice to see the builders and to see the industry again. I must say I've had an amazing time here in Seoul.
Yeah, it's great. So now, for those who are not familiar about you, can you tell what are you up to these days? What are your activities are?
So for those who are unfamiliar, very quickly, I founded the first televised crypto show in the world. It was aired on CNBC. It was called CNBC Crypto Trader. When I was at CNBC, I realized a few things. One is I realized that crypto people love the fact that CNBC is covering crypto. But they'll never do what CNBC says. They never respect the coverage. Second thing is, with CNBC, it's almost like a us and a them. CNBC are very cold and clinical, and they wear suits and ties. But that's not what crypto people want. Crypto people want community, and they want fun. And I never heard the word CNBC community. So what I decided to do was to leave and to start my own channel, which is going to be live, streaming, credible, 24/7, 365 crypto. And the reason for that is because if I ask you, Anna, what's happening on the markets right now, where are you going to go?
CoinMarketCap, Twitter.
You can go to Twitter, but it's going to take you a long time to filter through the noise, right? You can go to YouTube, you can go to Telegram, but I don't know about you, but my Telegram looks like it's going to explode. The third thing you can do is you can go to YouTube. The problem is if you go to YouTube, most YouTubers are paid. And the problem is that when people are paid, you don't know whether they're talking about a token because they really think it's good or because they're paid. So we decided we don't want to play that game. And we decided to build a live 24/7, 365 streaming crypto platform where you can go any time of the day or night and you can get live crypto content and know what's happening on the market. Today we have 5 hours of programming. We have 2 charting shows. One from a perma bull and one from a perma bear, so very balanced. We have a gaming show for NFT and gaming. We have a fundamental show, which I do, and we have a DeFi show, which is a deep dive, how to make yield kind of show. So that's where we are today. I also have a fund. The fund is primarily my own money. I invest my own money in projects, which is really why I travel the world. I go and meet projects and builders. I've been investing since 2017, so I've pretty much been around.
Yeah, that's cool, and awesome to hear about starting your own new channel, and that it's probably the new approach in our industry.
Yeah, it is.
To make streaming for crypto. And as well, let's discuss the latest news. I guess the hottest news now is around Tornado Cash and that the developers have been arrested. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a tragedy. I'm a big investor in Tornado Cash. And the reason why I'm a big investor in Tornado Cash is because I think that blockchain, we all love transparency, yes, I agree. But some things are not practical to be transparent. For example, if you want to buy a water and you want to pay with ETH, you pay with ETH, and then the store where you bought the water knows everything you've ever done, every ICO you've bought, every transaction you've ever made. That's not really practical. I mean, it's just not practical. And so sometimes you need privacy. And I think Tornado Cash was the answer. Now, Chainalysis, who in my opinion are one of the most respected analytics companies in the world, said that 10% of Tornado Cash was hacked money, 17% was, or 15% was sanctioned money. That means 25% of Tornado Cash was not great, but 75% of it was for true privacy. So I think it's a tragedy. I think that the fact that developers are getting arrested is crazy, ridiculous. But someone said something on my show, Raoul Paul said something on my show yesterday, and he said, you know what, if we want to get a lot of money into crypto, there's going to be a bit of give and a bit of take. And even though I'm a big investor in Tornado Cash, maybe if we have to sacrifice one lamb so that all the other lamb can survive, then maybe that's the price we have to pay. Principally, I think it's wrong. I think legally the US government's got no leg to stand on. But the problem is that we live in an era where the US government does whatever they want, and that's very scary.
Yeah,
I mean,
they some kind of things that they have over supremacy.
Yeah,
countries.
I'll give you an example. Like, I'm not going to comment about my opinion on the Russia-Ukraine war because I think that that's very political. But I can say that for the US to unilaterally sanction all the oligarchs and just seize their assets just because they have ties to Russia is ridiculous. As much as I'm not going to get into a political thing specifically not with someone who's Ukrainian, but it's not normal that someone will work hard for their whole lives and then the US government will just decide to seize everything that they've got in one day. That's crazy, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thoughts. Unfortunately, as I say, I'm a big investor, and really I'm a big investor because I believe in the product. And I use the product a lot. You know, the problem...
Yeah, even Vitalik told that he used the
I use it a lot
to donate to Ukraine.
Yeah, sometimes when I want to give someone money and I don't want them to know my activities, I use Tornado Cash. It's amazing. In fact, I used it today.
What's gonna be with people who got some kind of airdrop like 0.2 Ethereum on their wallets from Tornado Cash?
I think the US government is smart enough to not worry about that. I also think that the way the US government works specifically is they have a whole lot of laws. Too many laws. More laws than any other country that I've ever been in. And the way the system is designed is that automatically, just by living your day-to-day life, you will break a whole lot of laws. And for most of the time, they won't need to bother you because you broke the laws. But if they ever do, at least they know they've got something to catch you on. So I think it's kind of like as long as you do nothing wrong, that won't bite you. But if you do something wrong, then that will bite you.
Yeah, that's true. So how do you see involvement of the station with the Tornado Cash?
How do I see involvement of?
Yeah, how do you see the development of the station? Because like developers just wrote the code and they shouldn't be responsible for...
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think it's crazy. But the problem is, just put yourself in the developer now. You're fighting the US government, the Dutch government. The government has unlimited resource. You are a developer, you don't have a lot of money. In the best case scenario, the developer spends about $1 million now trying to defend themselves. They are in debt, they got loans, etc. And if they win, then nothing happens. They don't get their legal fees back. They spend $1 million. If they're wrong, and they're not really wrong, but they might be made wrong, just so that they can say they did something. Look, there was money laundering, we did something, the guy's in jail, haha, elections, we'll win, etc. That's what I think about Tornado Cash. I think it's very sad.
Yeah, so what's the future for privacy in crypto, for privacy tools in crypto?
We have to find a way. We have to find a way. On the one hand, I really believe in transparency, and I think that that's the reason why we use Bitcoin, because everything is transparent and everything is on chain, and that's the route for real decentralized finance and stuff like that. But on the other hand, we can't be in a position where we have zero privacy, because hey, I don't want you to know what I'm investing in. But you do know my address. That's the problem. So it's a problem. I think we have to find a happy medium. I think if they sanctioned Tornado Cash, the next thing they can sanction is Monero. The next thing they can sanction is Zcash, and they can just continue to sanction and sanction and sanction. And that's not a good precedent. That's not a good look.
Yeah, that's true. But actually with Monero and Zcash, like there were a lot of conspiracy before. Yeah, so I think they are less used now.
Yes, but they're still used, and the US can sanction them.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully the situation will evolve for the better for our industry. And as well, like regarding your investments, what are your biggest investments now?
So generally we invest in very early stage investments. So we like to be the first check or the second check in in the narrative. But now the market has been so cheap that we actually shifted a lot of our focus to investing on stuff that's on the market. You know, like when you can buy Solana for $25, and when you can buy Thorchain for $1.80 or whatever it was, and when you can buy these things on the market, ETH for $950.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but I'm saying, so that was good. So for a long time, we just spent our money on market activities. Otherwise, we're looking for narratives. The narratives, anything to do with multi-chain, because bridges are a problem. We know this. All the hacks, not all, but the majority of the hacks this year were all bridges.
Yeah.
We have to solve the bridge problem. We have to. So we're investing in quite a lot of bridge problems. We invested recently in Stargate, which is the layer 0 protocol, which is a messaging protocol. Metaverse, very good time to start playing in Metaverse, because Metaverse is really at the bottom now. And
what is Metaverse for you?
Gaming. So what is Metaverse for me? Metaverse for me is anywhere where we spend our time online. And so where do we spend our time online? Work, work, gaming, music, general art collection, NFT. So to me, that's all part of what I call the metaverse. I think the concept of going to a meeting on Zoom is ridiculous when we can go and have more fun in the metaverse, in a digital world. I think music, I think film, I think that's all starting to happen now. So really, now that I've been in Korea, and I think you've seen it this week as well, there's a extreme focus on NFT and metaverse.
Yeah, that's true.
Much more than anything that I've seen. If you look at the market is down. But if you look at where the smart money is going and where the investment is going and where people here are putting their money, NFT and metaverse. And then to me, we're underweight, and we need to be much more overweight into NFT and metaverse.
And we also have so many players in NFTs and different developers of the games, but who will be the winners in your opinion?
So the good thing about crypto is that you get outsized returns. So you can still get 100x, 200x, 500x, 1000x, 2000. We can still do that, which means that you don't need to pick the winner. It means that you have to take a lot of small bets. So if you take 10 small bets and 9 of them go to 0, but 1 of them goes to 100x, which is very possible in crypto, you're okay. You still got 90x profit, right? Because you lost 10, but you made 9. So I'm not trying to pick too many winners, because to be honest, every time, like, I do my due diligence as much as I can, and I look at the concept and I try and understand whether I've seen anything similar to it or not similar to it. But ultimately, the idea is to take a whole lot of small bets, to understand that when you take those bets, most of them are going to go to 0. When they do go to 0, not to get upset about it. So like when things go to 0, just say, okay, I knew that 9 out of 10 would go to 0, and to have the power to hold until they turn around, because eventually one of them will turn around. Generally, 9 out of 10 times, the one that turns around always surprises you. It's always the one that you thought was the least one to possibly succeed, right? And so when I make venture investments, when I write the check, it's like I throw money in the dustbin. And if I find it again, it's amazing. And if not, I throw it in the dustbin anyway. That's how you got to invest if you're a venture capitalist. Barring 3 things. One is if the team is not delivering on roadmap, basically an incompetent team. 2 is if it's a completely dishonest team. And 3 is if there's a change in narrative. So in other words, if you see that privacy is never going to work because the US is going to sanction it, in that case, if you can salvage some of your privacy investments, salvage them. You get what I'm saying? But otherwise, my best is, you want to be a venture capital investor, take a whole lot of small bets, forget about them, let them die, and that's the end of it.
Do you sell during unlock periods, or it depends on the project?
There are 4 times usually when I sell, 4 or 5. First time that I sell is if my narrative changes. So example, I don't believe in privacy anymore, then I will sell. So that's the one time that I sell. Second time that I sell is if I need to pay living expenses. I need to pay for a car, I need to pay for a house. That comes first. So you have to have enough of a runway. Third time that I sell is to reinvest in other projects. So do I sell during unlock periods? Yes. And then what I do, I take the money and I reinvest it in 5 other projects. So yes, I do that. The other time that I sell is sometimes you need to rebalance your portfolio because sometimes things go too big in your portfolio. All of a sudden you have more Luna than Bitcoin. You don't want to be in that situation. So that's the 4 times that I actually sell anything. Sorry, I'm spilling water everywhere. It's very exciting being interviewed by you.
And you probably mentioned Luna, and that is why you spilled the water.
That's it.
I watched your interview with Scott Malka that you lost 9 figures in Luna. Can you tell about the story for those who haven't watched the interview?
For those who haven't watched the interview, go and watch the interview because it's a very long story. I invested in Luna in 2018 here in Korea. We were one of the first investors.
Yeah, I remember I was here for the first time 2018. Luna made the meetup. Nobody abroad knew about them. It was very Korean project. And then I guess from 2020 they started taking off. 2020 we bought in the ICO, and then we bought before the ICO, and we bought in 2020. We were buying at 35 cents and we bought a lot. And our position grew very much. Our position was north of $100 million. And we also really loved the ecosystem. So we invested in Anchor Protocol, we invested in Mirror Protocol, we invested in the DEXs, we invested in the metaverses, we invested in the rebalancing protocols. And then Luna collapsed and I lost over $100 million. And okay, I mean, it was the hardest weeks of my life. Because not only did I lose a lot of money, I don't know how you would feel if you lost 50% of your portfolio and you lost a lot of money. More importantly, a lot of my community were invested in Luna. And they were invested in Luna because I told them that it's a good idea to invest in Luna. And I did that because I thought it was really a good idea to invest in Luna. And it was amazing when Luna was going up. They were telling me how much they loved me. But then when Luna went down, you know what it's like. And I felt the weight of the community on my shoulders. So that was really, really hard. And then the other thing that is actually quite hard is if you are at a certain level in life and you have an aspiration to be at another level. So I'll make it simple for you. Say that you don't have a car, okay? And you don't have a house, you don't have a car. And your aspiration in life is really to have a house and to have a car. And then you get to the amount of money where you can actually have a house and you can have a car. You get an amazing feeling of freedom. So the feeling is actually freedom. Because when you attain a goal, usually it frees you, right? So it doesn't matter where you are. But if it's around a house and a car, that's one thing. If it's bigger than that, it's a yacht and a jet. I mean, I don't know what everybody has different levels. But when let's say that you always used to fly economy class and your dream is to have a jet so you can fly private, and eventually you get to a point where you can finally own a jet. So you feel free. You can have a jet, you can fly whenever you want, you can sleep on the jet. When you lose the money, you lose the freedom. You feel, so if you all of a sudden don't have a house and don't have a car, you're now trapped by the obligation to pay rent. And so it's almost like being a prisoner. Because what happens is you lose the freedom that you had that the money gave you. And so that was the hardest part. The hardest part was I had dreams for this money, and now I felt like I went down and I became a slave to having to make the money again to get that same freedom. And the truth is that once you've tasted it, so I don't know, if you've never driven a car before and you've always had to rely on buses and taxis and whatever, and all of a sudden now you got a car. It's an amazing feeling. I mean, every morning you wake up, you want to go, so you get into the car, you take the roof off if it's a nice car, and now you got to go back to taxis. It's not a great feeling, and so that was the hardest thing. But I mean, I don't know, it motivated me much more. I lost all the money, not all, whatever I lost. I mourned for a week or two, and then I thought, listen, I'm young, I'm healthy, I've got a great network, I love what I do. I wake up every morning thinking this is the best industry in the world. I'm so lucky to be here in such an early time. Hey, we're on a weekend today and the prices are up 15%, 10%. Where else in the world do you get such a cool industry?
And so just keep on keeping on. And I know I'm going to make it back much more. So I'm cool.
So how is your due diligence process changed since the crash of Luna?
We were always good on due diligence, except in the peak of the bull market where we used to invest on momentum. So a couple of rules now. We don't momentum invest anymore. There's no such thing. Even if you know something can do 100x, if you don't fundamentally believe in it, don't invest in it. Because you never know when the momentum is going to stop. But what you do know for sure is that when it stops, it's going to stop very fast. Number one. Number two, in nature, there are bees and there are wasps. Right? So you have to have an open mind to both. So the people that I love the most on Twitter are the people that I disagree with the most. So the people that I love, before the people that I hated on Twitter were the people that I really hated. Today, when I feel that anger towards someone on Twitter, when I look at someone's tweet and I say, you know, you're such an idiot, that's the guy I listen to. And there's a good reason for it. We, as crypto people, we fall for tokens. We defend ecosystems, Cardano, XRP. Why? It's chemical. It's dopamine that's released and oxytocin. It's a very complicated chemical process, which I've studied. We can do it one day in a longer interview. But we become attached to tokens. And the problem is that, in fact, let me walk you through it. Okay, you got a few minutes? I'll walk you through it. So crypto is a very unique thing. The reason why it's a very unique thing is because you've got a 24-hour scoreboard which tells you if you're right or wrong. So I'll give an example. You say, wow, Matic is a good token. You look at CoinGecko, Matic goes up. Therefore, you get a feedback loop to your brain that says, wow, you're so clever. You said Matic is a good token and Matic went up. So what happens in your brain is it's a feedback loop, and it's a positive feedback loop. So what your brain automatically does is it releases a hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is addictive. It's like a drug. Heroin is a release of dopamine. Dopamine is very addictive. It's the feeling that you wake up in the morning, you look at your CoinGecko and say, yeah, I did it. That's dopamine. It's addictive. It's one of the most powerful drugs in the world. Now, a byproduct of dopamine, when your body releases dopamine, in some cases, it also releases another thing called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a connection drug. The most primitive form of oxytocin is when a woman gives birth to a baby. When the baby goes through the birth canal, the body releases oxytocin. And the purpose behind that is to make the mom feel connected to the baby. So oxytocin is the connection drug in your body. So crypto is very cool. Why? Because, hey, Matic is an amazing token. I love what they're doing. Dopamine plus oxytocin. Oxytocin makes you feel connected to the token. And that's why we become religious about tokens. Now, let me ask you a question. If someone attacks something that you are connected to, what do? You defend. And that's what people do around tokens. And that's one of the lessons that I learned. Don't try and defend a token. Try and listen with an open mind to criticism and be really, really, really open-minded about what could go wrong. And it's hard because you're actually fighting chemical. Like, you're fighting chemical. It's like, in the extreme case, it's like a mom saying that her child is ugly. Okay? Like, that's the extreme case. You got to do that with tokens. And so that's what I learned. I learned, don't defend, don't be too overexposed, don't do any more momentum trading.
And do you often change your mind when somebody opposes your opinion?
Much more, yes. Much more, yes. Look, there's something about being very focused on a goal. And if we weren't all focused on a goal, we would never be holding Bitcoin, because how many times did people say Bitcoin is going to die?
Yeah.
But there's also another side which says, look, just listen to criticism with an open mind and keep asking the what if question, and that's probably your risk thing. But if you have conviction, stick to your conviction. But we become attached to tokens, and the problem is that, in fact, let me walk you through it. Okay, you got a few minutes? I'll walk you through it. So, crypto is a very unique thing. The reason why it's a very unique thing is because you've got a 24-hour scoreboard which tells you if you're right or wrong. So I'll give an example. You say, wow, Matic is a good token. You look at CoinGecko, Matic goes up. Therefore, you get a feedback loop to your brain that says, wow, you're so clever. You said Matic is a good token, and Matic went up. So what happens in your brain is it's a feedback loop, and it's a positive feedback loop. So what your brain automatically does is it releases a hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is addictive. It's like a drug. Heroin is a release of dopamine. Dopamine is very addictive. It's the feeling that you wake up in the morning, you look at your CoinGecko and you say, yeah, I did it. That's dopamine. It's addictive. It's one of the most powerful drugs in the world. Now, a byproduct of dopamine, when your body releases dopamine, in some cases it also releases another thing called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a connection drug. The most primitive form of oxytocin is when a woman gives birth to a baby. When the baby goes through the birth canal, the body releases oxytocin, and the purpose behind that is to make the mom feel connected to the baby. So oxytocin is the connection drug in your body. So crypto is very cool. Why? Because hey, Matic is an amazing token. I love what they're doing. Dopamine plus oxytocin. Oxytocin makes you feel connected to the token, and that's why we become religious about tokens. Now, let me ask you a question. If someone attacks something that you are connected to, what do? You defend. And that's what people do around tokens. And that's one of the lessons that I learned. Don't try and defend a token. Try and listen with an open mind to criticism, and be really, really, really open-minded about what could go wrong. And it's hard because you're actually fighting chemical. Like, you're fighting chemical. It's like, in the extreme case, it's like a mom saying that her child is ugly. Okay? That's the extreme case. You got to do that with tokens. And so that's what I learned. I learned, don't defend, don't be too overexposed, don't do any more momentum trading.
And do you often change your mind when somebody opposes your opinion?
Much more, yes. Much more, yes. Look, there's something about being very focused on a goal. And if we weren't all focused on a goal, we would never be holding Bitcoin, because how many times did people say Bitcoin is going to die?
Yeah.
But there's also another side which says, look, just listen to criticism with an open mind and keep asking the what if question, and that's probably your risk thing. But if you have conviction, stick to your conviction.